This is a lesson on Caesar's De Bello Gallico IV, chapter 21. He's getting ready to cross over to his first invasion of Britain. But he doesn't know anything about the island, and when he asks the Gauls, they don't know anything about the island. And so he asks the merchants, who go, we may know a thing or two about the island, but not too much about the island. So, ad haec cognoscenda. This is a great accusative gerundive expressing purpose. In order to learn, to find out, discover, haec, these things, all the things that he said previously. Prius quam periculum faceret, idoneum esse arbitratus, Gaium Volusenum cum navi longa praemittit. So, prius quam, before he faceret periculum, he made the risk, he ran the risk. Idoneum esse arbitratus, arbitratus being a perfect, well, it's passive participle, it's deponent, so translated actively. Having thought, deemed, judged that Gaius Volusenus esse idoneum was suitable, he praemittit, he praemitto, he sends him forth, that's Gaius Volusenus, cum navi, which you should read it as nave longa, with a long ship, which for the Romans was a warship. Go ahead and check out the notes and glosses, the different pictures, a merchant ship, an orlis navis oneraria, that would be a transport ship, or a navis longa, a warship, which we usually think of a trireme, a ship with 3 banks of oars. So Caesar thought that Gaius Volusenus would be suitable, and he sends him forth in a warship to figure out these things before he himself, Caesar, runs the risk, because it could be very dangerous. Huic mandat, Huic being the dative of hic, haec, hoc, and it means this guy or this thing. It's masculine, going to refer back to Gaius Volusenus. Mandat, so Caesar instructs, or he orders, he gives instructions or orders to this guy, Huic, Gaius Volusenus. Ut, and that's going to kick us off into an indirect command, a noun clause that explains what Caesar instructs or orders Gaius Volusenus to do. Ut exploratis omnibus rebus, ad se quam primum revertatur. So exploratis omnibus rebus, a nice ablative absolute, with all things, all these matters, all this stuff, all these affairs having been explored, reconnoitered, having been discovered or found out. Ad se, that refers to Caesar, so back to see him, Caesar, quam primum, as soon as possible, revertatur. We have a present subjunctive and an indirect command following a present mandat, introductory verb. We're in primary sequence. So Caesar orders this guy, Gaius Volusenus, that's the Huic, to return back to him, that is Caesar, as soon as possible, once all of these things are found out, once all of these things are explored or scouted out. Return back to him, Caesar, as soon as possible. Ipse, that's going to be Caesar himself, cum omnibus copiis, with all of his forces, in Morinos, into or among the Morini, proficiscitur, he sets out. So Caesar himself sets out with all of his forces among the Morini, who are a tribe. Quod, that's quod plus the indicative, so because, causal clause. Quod inde erat brevissimus in Britanniam traiectus, because thence, in that place, from that place, erat brevissimus in Britanniam traiectus. The traiectus, the crossing over into Britannia, was the shortest, was the briefest. So Caesar goes to the Morini with all of his forces because it's in that place that the crossing into Britain is the shortest. Huc naves undique ex finitimis regionibus, et quam superiore estate ad Veneticum bellum fecerat classam jubet convenire. Huic, hither, to this place. Naves, ships, undique, all gates, from everywhere. Ex finitimis regionibus, from the neighboring regions, from the surrounding environs. Et, conjunction and, quam superiore aestate. This is kind of a funky thing. We actually have a postcedent. Quam is an accusative singular feminine relative pronoun, starting us off to a relative clause. Quam superiore aestate ad veneticum bellum faceret. Classem is actually the antecedent of quam, though it comes later. So you guess you could call it a postcedent. I think we've seen this one or two other times before. And the classem, the fleet, quam, which superiore aestate, ablative of time when, in the earlier or previous summer, he had faceret made ad veneticum bellum for the Venetic War, for the war against the Veneti. Those are the tribes of Brittany, so the area that is of Gaul that is closest to Britain, the Atlantic states in Book 3. He had to make a special fleet in order to take them out because the triremes and ships that he had brought from the Mediterranean were getting pounded by the Atlantic waters. The waters in the Atlantic are a lot rougher than the Mediterranean, so he had to modify his fleet a little bit. So he ordered to this place, the Morini, where he's about to set out, ships from everywhere, from all the neighboring regions, and the fleet that he had made in the previous summer for the Venetic War. You bet, orders them to convenire, to gather. Interim, meanwhile, or in betweenly, meanwhilely, concilio eius cognito, I hate it when that happens, another ablative absolute, with eius's Caesar's, with his plan, with Caesar's plan, concilio, his stratagem, his design, cognito, found out. I mean, it wasn't exactly a secret. He kind of told everyone, I'm thinking of going to Britain. Can you tell me about what goes on that island? Et per mercatores per lato ad Britannos. Per lato is the other participle. It corresponds to cognito. Both of them go with the noun concilio. So once his plan was found out and it was per lato, it was related. It was announced or given over to the Britanni, to the Britons, through the merchants, through the agency of the mercatores, per mercatores. So the merchants told on Caesar. They went to Britain and said, hey, this Roman dude with an extremely large forehead is talking about you guys. He might be coming over to your island. So once that happened, a comploribus insulae civitatibus ad eum legati veniunt. So, yep, indeed, by or from, it's probably from separation, comploribus insulae civitatibus, from several states of the island, indeed, from several states of Britain, legati veniunt ad eum, legates come to him, ambassadors come to him, Caesar, qui polliceantur, qui quod plus subjunctive, looks like we have a relative purpose clause. That's a relative pronoun plus a subjunctive verb to tell the purpose of the antecedent, which are probably the legates. And the legates were to promise to give hostages and to obtemporare, to obey or comply, takes the dative, with the imperio, the power, the command, the government, or the empire of the Roman people. So legates come to Caesar, and it's their job to promise to give hostages to Caesar and to submit to the empire of the Roman people. Well, that was easy. No reason to invade the island then. Quibus auditis, another nice ablative absolute, with which things, in English we'd probably say these things, with these things having been heard, liberaliter, graciously, Caesar is so gracious, pollicitus, promised, hortatusque, and encouraged, ut in ea sententia permanerent, so with which things, with these things having been heard, I would translate these as finite verbs instead of participles. He graciously promised and urged that they permanerent, they stay in their oath, in their same thought, in their same vein. so that they don't do anything rash. They don't do anything out of sorts. So quibus auditis, he heard them, and then he graciously promised them, and he urged them that they keep to their oath, they keep to their word. So having done that, eos domum remittit, he sends them back home. Remember that domus, humus, and rus do not take any prepositions, so you're not going to see ad domum, you're just going to see domum. He sends them homeward. Et cum iis, you're probably used to eis. Una is an adverb, together, comius. And together with them, comius, the accusative, quam ipse at rebatibus superatis regim ibi constituerat, quam comius whom ipse, he himself, Caesar, constituerat, had decided, had chosen to be king, regim ibi, in that place, atrebatibus superatis, with the atrebates having been overcome, defeated. Another ablative absolute. I'd probably translate these temporally. When the atrebates were defeated, after the atrebates were defeated. Cuius et virtutem et consilium probabat. All of these things, this is just information about Comius. We're just talking about who Comius was. Caesar decided Comius would be king after he defeated the Atrebates. Cuius et virtutem et consilium, but whose both valor and consilium, his counsel, the probabat, Caesar was approving. Et quem sibi fidelem esse arbitratur, and whom he was thinking esse was fidelem sibi, was faithful to him, sibi being Caesar. Cuiusque, and whose authorita, in his regionibus magnae habebatur. Magni is a genitive of price, and when it's used with habeo, it means to consider something highly, to have something at a high price, and whose authority was considered highly in these regions. So people had a high opinion of Comius and his authorita in these places. Mittit, and here's our main verb. So all that back together, he eos domum remittit, he sends them back home, and he mittit, sends with them, and sends together with them Comius, whom Caesar had made king, or had decided would be king in that place when the Atrebati were defeated, whose valor and counsel he approved of, and whom he thought was faithful to him, and whose authority in these regions was held highly. Huic imperat, he, remember impero takes the dative, so he orders this guy, Comius, Huic refers back to Comius, he orders or instructs this guy, quas possit adeat civitates, horteturque ut populi Romani fidem sequantur seque celeriter eo venturum nuntiet. So here we're going to have an indirect command of what he orders Comius to do. He orders this guy to go to adeat the civitates, to quas civitates possit, what states he is able, to whichever states possible. Horteturque, and he urges them, the states, ut, so that populi Romani fidem sequantur, they follow the faith of the Roman people. They keep their word to the Roman people. They don't break their oath to the Roman people. They keep following the faith and loyalty to the Romans. Seque celeriter eo venturum nuntiet. And he nuntiet, and he reports and he announces, or he is to report and announce, that he, meaning Caesar, venturum, we are now in an indirect statement, another noun clause of what Comius is to announce to the Britons, that Caesar, that's the say, venturum will come eo, to that place, thither, celeriter, quickly, with haste. So Caesar orders Comius to go to whatever states possit possible he is able, and to urge them so that they keep their faith to the Roman people, and that he announced that he, Caesar, will come to them quickly. Volusenus perspectis regionibus omnibus, quantum ei facultatis dari potuit. So back to Volusenus. In the meantime, Volusenus perspectis regionibus omnibus, ablative absolute, with all of the regions perspectis scouted out, thoroughly looked at. Quantum ei facultatis dari potuit. This is something like quantum plus the genitive, facultatis, as much of an ability as was able to be given to him. So it's a roundabout way of saying, after Volusenus inspected all the regions, as many as he was able to, as many as opportunity afforded him. Qui refers back to Volusenus. It's just a stand-in for him. He did not dare, I would say something like for, or since he did not dare to committere, or to egrere navi. Once again, for navi, you should read nave. To disembark from the ship, and to committere se, to entrust himself with the barbaris, to the barbarians. So Volusenus did not dare to leave from his ship or to entrust his personal safety to the barbarians. That V there is quinto die, on the 5th day, ad Caesarem revertatur. He, once again, reverto is a deponent, so translate actively. He returns to Caesar on the 5th day, and he renuntiat, and he announces, reports, which things perspexisset he had spied out, or he had thoroughly looked at ibi there. And that is an indirect question. What things did he espy there? Now it's being stated indirectly. So he returns to Caesar on the 5th day, and he reports what he had espied there.